Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day 504, 504. Friday, July 27th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Fun Friday. Let's get to it. Well, it looks like, just as I stated in yesterday's video, Big Ears, Eddie Munster, Paul Ryan has said no to impeachment. No, just like I said yesterday. So, what's the game now? Well, what's going to happen is, right now as we speak, Paul Ryan has got his whip busy working the phones, threatening all the Republicans. There's about 200 and, well, actually, if you take the 20 some odd from the Freedom Caucus, subtract them out, you got about 190 some odd Republicans. They'll be getting worked over on the phone by Paul Ryan's whip and his aides. They'll be whipping them into shape, making sure that they do not support this measure by the Freedom Caucus, or at least ways 11 members of the Freedom Caucus, to have this vote for impeachment for Rod Rodenstein. It's a very tricky game, because at the same time that Big Ears Eddie Munster Ryan is rapping on the knuckles of these Republicans, the Freedom Caucus can apply a little pressure of their own, which is to say, hey, you know, the president's supporters and the people you're counting on to vote for you might be very upset if you don't support this, because they have been driving us nuts, asking us why nobody is being held accountable, particularly Rodenstein. Here is your chance to hold him accountable. If you fall short, if you don't vote for this, your supporters back home may not be very happy with you. And they have a very good point. Now, unfortunately, this would have been a very good move to make back prior to a lot of the primaries. But now that we're so far deep into the primaries, most of these are over, and most of these guys, the only thing they're looking at running against is a Democrat. They probably don't fear so much losing their seat, but they can still face a lot of backlash at home. This would have been much more effective 6 months ago, but better late than never. But either way, that's the battle that's going on right now. It's a battle of, can Paul Ryan and his whips and their aides rap on the knuckles hard enough of these 190 some odd Republicans to get them not to support the measure, or will Meadows and Jordan and their group, will they be able to apply enough pressure on their end to get these Republicans to vote for the measure? There will not be any Democrats voting for it, obviously. So it'll be very interesting to see who's on board and who's not on board. Now, they should go ahead and have the vote anyway. And it could be a very embarrassing vote. They could only end up getting 35 or 40 votes in support. They might get 60, they might get 70, but they'll be lucky to get 100. But they need about 208, something like that. So it's not going to happen, but it's a good thing to do. It needs to be done. It's a shame that Paul Big Ears Ryan is who he is. Fortunately, he's leaving, and hopefully we will be replacing him with Jim Jordan. But things are what they are. Ryan is the speaker. He still controls the money. He can bring a lot of pressure. And you have quite a few Republicans who are leaving and not coming back to Congress in the first place. And so they have no motivation to vote for it. So again, 6 months ago, this would have been extremely effective. It's separating the wheat from the chaff. But now we're so deep into the election season, it's not going to have that type of an impact. But it's still important. They still need to do it. They can still have the vote. They don't need Paul Ryan's permission to have the vote. They can have the vote. But I honestly don't think they're going to get anywhere near the votes they need. I'd be very surprised if they even get 100 votes. That would be wonderful if they got 100 votes. I'll be very surprised. But we'll watch and see, because I imagine tomorrow or Monday, Meadows will bring the measure to the floor. They'll have a floor vote. No Democrats will vote for it. We know the Freedom Caucus members, most likely all of them will. And then we'll find out who the wheat and who the chaff is. And it's just something, and if your representative doesn't vote in support of this measure, send him a nasty email, burn up his phone line, give him a call, do something. Let him know you're not very happy that they're not defending the president, that they're essentially defending Rodenstein, who's essentially helping, he's the gatekeeper for the coup. He signed off on the third FISA warrant, knowing good and well that it was a false document. He lied to the FISA court, and much, much more. So it is important. I'm glad they're doing it. They need to have the vote. And at least we know who the stand-up guys are. There just aren't enough of them. Hopefully we can rectify that in November. Can't throw them all out, I guess. Replace them all in one sweep. But if we can, we're getting rid of 50 of them right off the top. Replace them with some better Republicans. That's an improvement. Get Jim Jordan as the speaker. That would be a major improvement. So, you know, we're looking to better our position in November. That's the goal. That is the goal, to improve our position. And I think we will do that. We'll see how it all shakes out, but that's just how I see it playing out. Shouldn't surprise us. Like I told you yesterday, Paul Ryan was not going to support it. And I was right again. Of course, it didn't take Jeff Sessions, the eager beaver, the overachiever. Jeff Sessions didn't take him long to come out and tell us all how much he endorses Rodenstein, how much he's opposed to this impeachment. Not only that, but he gave us a sad and cowardly, despicable apology because he was speaking at this place a couple days ago and those young high school conservatives started saying lock her up. He chuckled very briefly and then he went on with what he was going to say. And he took a lot of heat, and today he stood there like a little girl, like a sissy, and apologized to the media, which obviously terrifies him. What he should have done was looked at them and said, "Can't you people take a joke? A bunch of high school kids chanting lock her up. Come on, get serious. Has anyone got a serious question?" That's how he should have handled that. You don't even take something like that serious. But he had to sit there and backpedal. Well, I guess I should have told him that in this country you're innocent until proven guilty. Really? Really? I guess that doesn't apply to the president, though, does it, Jeff? I don't hear you saying that to the other side. Whose side are you on, Jeff? I called for your firing yesterday. I've called for your firing many times before. God willing, we won't have to put up with you very much longer. Jeff, you're a failure, a dismal failure. You're despicable. I could never imagine he would do this bad of a job. I was never a big fan of Sessions, but when Trump made him Attorney General, I thought, okay, well, you know, it's better than Holder. You know, it's better than a lot of things, but I guess he'll do okay. I never could have imagined Jeff Sessions was going to be this bad. I never would have imagined that. Unbelievable to watch this. You just don't know what he's thinking. Here's a good question. Regarding the FISA applications that were released heavily redacted this past weekend, why did the DOJ black out or redact so much of the FISA warrants? Who do you think all the blacked out information is most damaging to? The FBI, the DOJ, or Carter Page? Why are Nunes and other Republicans calling for the president to declassify the documents and release them fully unredacted so everyone can read the entire FISA application without the redactions? Every member of the House Intelligence Committee and the Joint Oversight Committee has seen the entire unredacted FISA applications, and they want it released unredacted for all of us to read. What does that tell us? Well, it's very simple. It tells us that what is redacted is obviously very damaging to the FBI and the DOJ. If it wasn't damaging to the FBI and DOJ, it wouldn't be redacted. If it helped make their case, it wouldn't be redacted. If it helped show more evidence why it was legitimate to spy on Carter Page, it wouldn't be unredacted. But that doesn't stop the loony lefties and a lot of Never Trump Republicans, especially that goon over in the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mr. Burr, who came out and made a statement along with little Marco saying, oh, I think they had perfectly good reason to take out the FISA application on Carter Page. You look at the activities he was involved in, blah, 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 and the fact that it's unredacted, all that unredacted stuff, that's probably very damaging to Carter Page and probably very damaging to the case. So, it's a good thing it's unredacted. But we're sure if that stuff wasn't redacted, it would probably be even more damaging. More damaging to who, Mr. Burr? Little Marco? This is obvious as the nose on your face. No, all the members, in fact, Nunes has stated, he was asked. He's not really allowed to get into specifics, but he flatly said, we want this whole thing released again, fully unredacted, because it's even, the stuff that's blacked out is just as damaging, if not more damaging, than all the stuff that we're able to read. They want it all unredacted. You think it'll happen? It's just insane to watch the propaganda coming from the left, coming from the anti-Trump Republicans, coming from the media, that they'll spin something like this. How stupid do you have to be to believe that? Here you have CNN and MSNBC. They got 1 million viewers out there that watch them. Tiny audience for a large media organization. And these people are sitting back and they're getting this information from MSNBC and CNN and the left-wing outlets. And CNN is trying to tell them, along with MSNBC and all the rest, yeah, well, there was a lot of redactions. And that's to protect sources and methods and super secret stuff. But if it were unredacted, it would probably be even more damaging about Carter Page and show even more reason why they had to redact and why they had to get a surveillance warrant on Carter Page. This is literally the propaganda that's being peddled from the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, PMS, the whole 9 yards. Every single damn one of them. Even Mr. Burr, the so-called Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee, with his good friend Mark Warner. This is what they're saying. Now, if you're a viewer watching this garbage, it only takes a little bit of brain power, just a little bit of common sense to go, now, why would the government redact all that? What, to protect Carter Page? Who does the government generally protect? Itself. You have to be a complete moron to have this peddled on you and have you believe it. You have to have your brain in the off position. You cannot be using your brain and buy into this stuff. I mean, just logic, common sense will tell you that the information that's blacked out is blacked out for a reason. It's not to protect Carter Page. He's the person they're trying to incriminate. He's the person they're trying to justify their surveillance on. Why would they redact that? No, they're redacting what is most damaging to them. We all know that. It's just unbelievable that there are people in this country that are that dumb, that swallow this stuff. But there are. That's how you get people like Mad Max and Nancy Pelosi and all the rest. That's how you get those people. Man, I'm starting to think that we need to have like a basic exam before you can vote in this country. Just a basic exam. You got to be able to, do some, like, at least 10th grade level math, a little English, a little science, a little history. You got to know something about the Constitution, about the founding of the country. You have to do some basic, simple exercises and prove that that your brain even works. I mean, we have got, the electorate is far too dumbed down in this country. Stupid people voting. That's a big problem. And they're getting stupider all the time. As I said earlier, Jim Jordan has officially announced he is running for the speakership. God willing, Jim Jordan will be the next speaker. It's going to be a hell of a fight. The establishment will do everything they can to stop that from happening. I can assure you of that. But he's got about 100 and some odd people have already on board. So that means it'll be very close. It'll be very close. We'll just have to see how that turns out. We got to hold on to the House first. And then hopefully, man, if Jim Jordan was the Speaker, we hold the House, and then we get Jim Jordan as Speaker. Oh my goodness. My friends, we'll be wrapping this thing up much sooner than I had even imagined. Something else, I mean, it's just amazing. If you watch the head of the RNC, she's on Fox all the time. She gives speeches all the time. She's out raising tons of money. I mean, we're out raising money 3, 4, 5, 10 to 1 over the Democrats. She's traveling all around the country. All those Trump supporters she's meeting, they're all fired up. They can't wait to vote. She's really optimistic. We're raising lots of money. Trump's base is rocking and rolling. They're ready to go vote tomorrow. Yet we have the swamp neocons and the Republicans like Big Ears Eddie Munster, Paul Ryan, going, well, I don't know. We're kind of preparing ourselves to lose in November. It looks bad. So I guess I guess the Democrats will take over the Congress. They'll take over the House. That's just, that's kind of what we have to prepare ourselves for. No! Isn't that amazing? That the national RNC, the people who are out there in the trenches, people have to actually have to raise the money, have to attend all these functions. They can see the crowds. They can see if they're enthusiastic or not. They're all guns blazing, talking about how much they believe that we're going to have a really good midterm because of all the energy and all the support that Trump has. At the same time, you have the sourpusses in the swamp who really don't like Trump at all, like Paul Ryan, who obviously was not happy he even won. Paul Ryan was hoping for Hillary. So it's just wild that you have these Republicans in the swamp in D.C. who have a completely different view than the RNC people who are actually out there in the trenches, raising the money, going to these places, going to these speeches, talking to Trump supporters, talking to other members. So it's just like night and day, the take that they have on what they believe is coming in November. And you gotta wonder about these swampers in D.C. You just know that people like Paul Ryan, they do not want the Republicans to hold on. I mean, he's leaving the Congress. He would love to leave the Congress and see them lose the House and see the Democrats take over. Paul Ryan would like that. Remember, he wanted Hillary, not Trump. And as we talked about a week or two ago, I'm absolutely convinced now that Nancy Pelosi had a stroke. And like I said, my grandmother had 2 strokes. My father, before he died, had 2 strokes. I've known other people have strokes. People, a lot of times, they have a stroke and really messes with their speech, their syntax, their concentration. You can really tell when someone's had something really go wrong upstairs. And this is like, I don't know how many speeches now it is, but Nancy Pelosi gave another speech where she's just completely incoherent, mispronouncing words, forgetting words. And keep in mind, she's reading off a teleprompter. It's not like she's a memorized speech. She's trying to read off this teleprompter. Just one mistake after another. Her speech was described as fumbling and bumbling. And it's people are obviously noticing this, and they're realizing, man, there's something wrong with this woman. She was trying to say the phrase prescription drug prices, and she said Pruger drug prices. Pruger, P-R-U-G-E-R, Pruger drug prices instead of prescription drug prices. She said trillion instead of trillion 2 times. She stuttered through many simple, common words. She could not even get out the word disgraceful. She tried several times and just couldn't do it and eventually gave up. She, on a couple occasions, tried to say president, and she stuttered it so bad that it was like, she couldn't even hardly get it out. Something is short-circuited in her brain. She's going senile, maybe Alzheimer's, maybe, but it looks to me a lot like, she reminds me like my granny after she had her stroke. Did the same type of thing. Went from normal speech and all that sort of thing, perfectly normal, to after the stroke, doing the same exact things. I think she had a stroke. I really, really do. And kept it quiet. And she don't look good. I mean, even with all that, Botox that's been injected into her face, I mean, her face is all sunken in. She looks bad. She's not doing well. And But God, I hope she sticks around for a few more years. 33% consider Democrats in the mainstream. Only 33% of voters consider Democrats to be in the mainstream. That's not good. 33%? That's like 1 out of 3. 56% consider them out of step. These are not good numbers. Not good numbers at all. And like I say, normally we could celebrate this, but as I've said before, never underestimate the incompetence, the stupidity, and the criminality of the Republicans. The Republican Party, folks, it ain't much better. Believe me. That's the only thing the Democrats have going for them, is that the Republicans are so effing bad. With the exception of a couple dozen Freedom Caucus members, the rest of them suck. And Democrats, they can't figure out why Trump's numbers are going up. Well, maybe that's because they live inside the Beltway. But if you look across America, his numbers are going up because people's lives are improving. They're improving. Their paychecks are bigger. They feel more secure about their jobs. Their home values are going up. Their 401ks are going up. They see him fighting for us on trade. They see that he's not going to get us into another disastrous multi-trillion-dollar war. And they're all for it, including a lot of moderate Democrats and independents. That's the answer to the question. Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill has already begun blaming the Russians for her loss, and she hasn't even lost yet. The Daily Beast, of course, is reporting that she was hacked by Russia. McCaskill says that she will reveal more details next week, but she'll be blaming the Russian GRU. Please, are you kidding me? So what their strategy now is to realize now that they're going to get their ass kicked in November, and what are they going to do? They're going to come out and say, it was the Russians. They hacked the midterms. Yes, the Russians hacked the midterms, and that's why we lost. Trump and the Russians hacked the midterms, and that's why we lost. Are they that crazy? You bet they are. Watch and see. Yeah, I mean, McCaskill, Trump won Missouri by 20%, 20 points. So, I can't believe she could win in Missouri. I mean, he won there by 20 points. If she does win, then that Republican running against her is really, really, really bad. Because she's horrible. I mean, even a lot of Democrats don't like her in Missouri. But yeah, she's already blaming the Russians for her loss, and she hasn't even lost yet. She is likely going to lose. Well, Facebook lost $119 billion in one day. It's the largest ever. Couldn't happen to a nicer cuck. Yeah, I mean, the day before, it's reported that Facebook is censoring 97% of conservative news feeds. So, why should he be surprised when you censor 97% of conservative news feeds that the next day all those conservatives cancel their accounts or whatever? To the tune of $119 billion. Even if you're rich, that's a lot of money. Nobody likes losing $119 billion. When's the last time you lost $119 billion? I'm sure just recently. Nunes is still pushing to get the documents to see if spies were being run in the Trump campaign before the initial investigation. That's funny. Maybe I should send him a copy of my video from 2 weeks ago where I went down a list of about, 30, 35 specific incidents that were happening long before up until July the 21st of 2016. I started at the October, November of 2015, even though we know that Stephen Halper was reporting on Michael Flynn in 2014, but I started in 2015, and I took you through about 2 or 3 dozen, must have been 30, 35 items on my notes of specific things that occurred long before July 31st of 2016. All these things were happening with these informants and with other things that were going on long before July 31st, 2016. Devin Nunes knows this. I mean, he's not stupid. Obviously, he knows this. He's just trying to get to the bottom of it, and they simply will not produce the documents, and that's why they want to impeach Rodenstein. He's holding on to the evidence that proves that they were involved a long time before July 31st of 2016. This began back. We know that we had private contractors accessing the FBI NSA database as early as November of 2015. 85% of which those 702 queries were illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional. He knows all that. He's just trying to get the evidence, and Rodenstein's blocking it. And Sessions is apparently all for it. Okay, well, Alexandria Ocasio, she's got Marty Feldman Eyes Cortez, says that the zero-tolerance illegal immigration policy is on the same spectrum as ethnic cleansing. Whew. She's even dumber than I thought. And she's pretty dumb. My goodness. We also have Ambassador Michael McFaul. You know, he is the guy that set up that little deal with Veselnitskaya and made arrangements for her to get a front row seat in Congress in those congressional hearings. Then she went over and took a picture from John McCain's office and put it up on her Facebook. Of course, Michael McFaul is the ambassador that Putin said he will be interested in having his people interview about shady dealings with dirty money being run through the Clinton campaign, but I think he meant the Clinton Foundation. Michael McFaul. His name does pop up from time to time in the criminal conspiracy. We have CNN reporter Caitlin Collins, who was banned from the Rose Garden presser, after she blurted out inappropriate questions earlier in the Oval Office presser. So, yeah, in the morning, she was at this Oval Office presser, which is Trump with Jean-Claude Juncker, and they're having a press conference about the trade. And that's what the questions should have been about. And she's standing back behind the group there of journalists, hollering out while they're trying to ask questions about trade and this and that. She's hollering out questions about Michael Cohen. Hey, did Michael Cohen betray you? Are you worried about what's on those tapes? And she just kept hollering out this type of stuff. And so it looks like the new director of communications over there, Bill Shine from Fox, escorted her out and said, by the way, you're not welcome back later for the Rose Garden thing. Don't come back, because we're not letting you in, because you abused your privilege. And that's very good. I've been saying this for a very long time. I hope Bill Shine kicks a lot of these traitors out of these press conferences. They don't belong in these press conferences. I can think, give a press pass to One America News. Give a press pass to Bill Still. Give a press pass to H.A. Goodman. You know, I can think of a lot of people. Sticks. I can think, hell, even InfoWars. They're even they're not anywhere near as nutty as CNN and MSNBC. In fact, they have some fairly good people over there. If Alex would stop interrupting his guests. But anyway, that's good to see that they finally have someone who will revoke press passes, because this has been going on for far too long. So good. Very, very good. The U.S. District Court judge in the BuzzFeed case. This is the biggest news of the day, maybe the biggest news of the year, right here. The U.S. District Court judge in the BuzzFeed case, Ursula Ungaro, has ordered Confusion GPS to appear in court in November to answer a broad array of questions about the firm's role in creating, investigating, and disseminating the Steele dossier. A huge win for Mr. Gubarev. Now, I just saw an interview with Mr. Gubarev about 2 weeks ago and his lawyer. Seems like a very nice man, by the way. Very smart, very quiet, nice man. Speaks pretty good English, too. All his lawyers said, yeah, we have a lot of questions. And he said Confusion GPS has been fighting for a year fighting hard for a year not to have to testify and answer the questions. But the fact of the matter is, the dossier says that Mr. Gubarev's company, Webzilla, is the ones who performed the hack for Putin against the DNC and the whole 9 yards, which is, of course, false. And they never proved any of it. So that's why they're being sued. Now there's the two lawsuits, the one in the UK, Mr. Gubarev versus Mr. Steele, and also Mr. Gubarev versus BuzzFeed in Florida. Been going on for a while. And as you know, if you've watched my videos for very long, we haven't talked about these civil cases because they've kind of been in hiatus. But a while back, I was saying that it's very, very likely that it's going to be the civil case of Mr. Gubarev that's likely to get to the bottom of the dossier long before it ever happens in Congress, because it's a civil suit. And you aren't fighting with the Department of Justice, you aren't fighting with all these other people. It's just a judge ruling whether or not various people must testify, like Christopher Steele, or give a deposition, like Christopher Steele, which he had to do, or whether it's Confusion GPS, whether or not they have to actually testify and answer the questions. And the judge has ruled, and she has seen the questions. And she has ruled that Confusion GPS has to answer all these questions, which will cover the creation of the dossier, how it was created. That'll mean that Confusion GPS will have to tell all of it, the sources and everything. Can't lie, it's a civil suit. Investigations, how they investigated it, and also how they disseminated it. The lawyers for Confusion GPS had been arguing the First Amendment and also client privilege. But the judge has said that the firm, talking about Confusion GPS, business relationships with its clients are not protected from disclosure by the First Amendment. This is huge news. So this case is now going to convene. Now that the ruling's been made, this case will reconvene in November. In November. Very important. Which means that Gubarev's attorneys are going to get Glenn Simpson and his partners there at Confusion GPS and anyone else at Confusion GPS, including probably Nellie Orr. And he's going to get them up on the witness stand there, and they got to tell how they put the dossier together from beginning to end, how they disseminated it, and to what degree they investigated it, and if so, how. They got to come off all of it, folks. And they're going to lose. BuzzFeed's going to lose. And Christopher Steele is also going to lose. It's going to be a huge win for Mr. Gubarev. And as far as the Congress is concerned, beating around the bush, trying to get this information out of Rodenstein and the DOJ, long before that ever happens, it's going to come out in a civil suit. And this is why I said a long time ago, Trump should have filed a civil suit against the government for violating his rights during the 2016 election, because then it would be a civil case. And Rodenstein couldn't hide behind the Mueller investigation. The Democrats couldn't hide behind the Mueller investigation. That's my recommendation, Rudy. If I was Rudy, I'd go file charges tomorrow against the government. Trump's rights were violated. I would take this thing into civil court. That's exactly what I would do. Because once you prove the case in civil court, then all the evidence comes out. And it can easily then be proven that you need a special counsel who would immediately begin to indict people. Maybe the way to go. But one thing's for sure, we're going to find out all about the dossier, a lot more than we've known up to this point, and it's coming out in the civil suit. That's where it's going to come out, just like I predicted a long time ago. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back with the Saturday edition of TowerGate. I appreciate you all tuning in. And I'll be back to you Saturday. You guys have a good night. See you. Bye.